Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Facebook Live with GAE. I am Lisa Morgan, a kindergarten teacher and the current president of the Georgia Association of Educators. And joining me tonight is
Joe Fleming. I'm the lobbyist for public teachers in the state of Georgia and the Georgia Association of Educators.
So first, I want to let everyone know our Vice President and Secretary Treasurer wanted to join us this evening, but they are each having some issues at home. So hopefully they will be able to join us a little bit later. And we do have a guest, but our main topic of discussion tonight, Monday, is the first day of the legislative session. And I kind of get the feeling, Joe, that we may be seeing a whole lot of education bills this year. So what's coming? What do we need to think about?
Yeah, I just wrote down a list of about 25 issues that pertain to public education that I think we're going to see this session. Some good and some not so good. But first of all, I think everybody listening and watching should realize that Monday night is also an important event. Some of you may know that Lisa is a fan of the University of Alabama. She marched in the marching band. What is it? The $1 million?
$1 million band.
That's right. I went to the University of Georgia. The two schools are playing in the national championship, so don't call us Monday night. We will not be available. We won't be together either, so we won't be fighting. But
yeah.
So I don't even know where to begin, to be honest with you, Lisa. There's so much going on, but let's start with the governor's promised teacher pay raise. Okay. A lot of people may remember that when the Governor Brian Kemp, ran for governor, he promised classroom teachers a $5,000 pay raise. 3,000 of that was passed. The second, if you will, installment, $2,000, was introduced and in the governor's budget right before COVID hit. And then because the economy suffered in those initial months under COVID, and schools were, of course, closed, and the session was delayed. They actually stopped in March of 2020 and didn't resume again until June. That was shelved for the moment, but I expect that to be in the governor's budget. Just so you know, according to Georgia's Constitution, the governor has to introduce a budget. He would probably hint at that on Wednesday at the Georgia Chamber of Commerce's Eggs and Issues event. And then on Thursday, he usually gives his State of the State address, which usually includes much more detail about what's in his budget. I fully expect the governor to have that pay raise in his budget. A couple other budget things that we're looking at and we want to make sure that are in the budget. Full funding for QBE. It's only been done a handful of times in the last 25 years, twice. Yeah, but I am optimistic, and I think the governor will come through again with fully funding QBE. The real question is, can we restore the cuts that were made during the COVID sessions? So in back-to-back sessions, they cut initially $400 million from public education and QBE. Some of that was restored last year in the mid-year budget adjustments, but we're hoping we can make up that money. And of course, there's lots of other things in the budget we'll be looking for. I think mental health care for students and educators is one thing to look at. Social workers, budget dollars for things like that. For our ESPs, there's not a state salary schedule like there is for classroom teachers, but I think that they need to be recognized further for their great work during this whole time, and that in many ways have been the glue that have kept the schools together and running and functioning. So there's a lot of budget related issues that are going to be coming up. In the past, and in, for example, the year when the $2,000 pay raise was in play before COVID hit, the House really wanted an income tax decrease. And it appeared at the time that the House wanted the income tax decrease more than they cared about the teacher pay raise. I hope we're not in that situation again this year. There may be money to do both, but it was kind of a choice between, do you want to cut income tax or do you want to give teachers a pay raise? So that will be one thing to watch. Again, by the way, that income tax would amount to just pocket change in the average person's pocket. So we think teachers deserve it, and more so than ever. Of course, we're also facing, in addition to the great work they've done, our teachers have done on COVID, there's an ongoing teacher shortage. Lisa, you wrote something the other day about, or I think speaking to a reporter about not only a teacher shortage, but critical shortage of ESPs, bus drivers, cafeteria workers, all kinds of folks. I can't drive by a school in Cobb County and not see a sign that says help wanted, bus drivers urgently needed. So budget things will be, yeah, go ahead.
Joe, your schools in Cobb County are the same schools I've seen all over the state.
Yeah.
We know the signs that the candidates get that are their yard signs. I have seen those kind of signs in the school driveways.
Yeah.
You know, from North Georgia to Southeast Georgia to Southwest Georgia.
Yeah.
So,
and of course, with the increase in COVID lately, you know, we'll see more shortages as well. And of course, if you're not aware and you're not in the Atlanta area, a number of school systems have gone to virtual. And Lisa, you may want to say a few words about that. But this Omicron version is certainly, it seems everywhere around me. My family, friends, you know, they say it's mild sometimes. My kids had it and it was not mild. It was rough. So we're still in a very treacherous time.
I think, well, we don't have the numbers for today, but the number that was reported yesterday was for January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And that was 55,973 cases in Georgia of COVID. And there were, of those, 7,731 were children. And I think what we have to know is when they say it's mild, their definition of mild is you don't have to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
That's not mild to me. My definition of mild is I kind of got the sniffles and I'll go up, yeah, I'll have some cough drops and drink a little extra liquid and I can go on about my day. But yeah, it is a big concern. And I think that's a big concern. Well, they haven't even posted the numbers for today. I guess we'll see what they are when they finally do post. But I think those school systems that are switching to virtual, are doing the right thing. But I think I'm even more concerned about those systems that are not doing the right thing when they're in the buildings.
Right. In Cobb, where my kids went to school, it's mask optional.
Right.
You know, Lisa, when we start the session on Monday, masks will be required at the state capitol.
Okay.
So I think at least the leadership of the House in particular and the Senate as well recognize that it's still a potent danger. Right. So anyway, other issues that we'll be facing, we are proactive on the waiver issue. Lisa, I'd love for you to elaborate on that a little bit more, but we do have a bill introduced, and I think we're going to have one in the Senate this session too that addresses the problems created when local school districts get waivers from state laws. You might want to explain a little bit about how that works and why that's bad for our teachers, students, and schools.
I think it's bad for everyone. And for those of you who aren't aware, I'm actually looking, if you aren't familiar with the waiver issue, I'm going to put a link in the comments in just a couple of moments from, we had a session earlier this year, Rights at Night, where we talked about the waiver issue. Yeah. We talked about the waiver issue and all about those systems and the waivers. They can waive literally any law that we have on the books, any state board rule, they can waive. The ones that I keep talking about when I'm talking to reporters and the community, I talk about the health and physical education, because that is something that everybody can understand. I think everybody agrees that our students need health and physical education. If you are in an elementary school, you want to see those kids go to PE. And they are waiving it, not because they want to give them more, because it's a minimum in the state rule, a minimum number of hours. You don't waive a minimum to give more. You waive a minimum to give less. Systems are waiving English as a second language and that instruction. They are waiving remedial instruction. They are no longer able to waive the early intervention program. That passed last year. They are waiving teacher certification. And in a lot of instances, that's not to bring in someone who wants to be a teacher. In some cases, that is, we need somebody to teach Algebra 1 during this period, and the only person that's available is a English teacher. I love English teachers, but I don't think the English teachers want to be teaching Algebra 1. So the waivers originally started during the Great Recession and were about saving money. Then they said, oh no, we're going to give you these waivers because you can increase student achievement. I don't see how a teacher not having a duty-free lunch, children not having PE, and the teacher that's teaching them not being certified in that area can be better for students. But that's what we've been told. Yep. So I did put the link if you want to read all about, if you want to watch our session, all about the waivers. The link is in the comments. Because this year was supposed to be the year. We've had this program for 6 years, and this year was the year they were supposed to evaluate the systems. Well, they're not going to evaluate because they don't have test scores from the last 2 years. And surprise, surprise, the only way they think they can evaluate student achievement is test scores. And I'm not going to get on that soapbox tonight. But so we're just going to give everybody a waiver for anything and no accountability. As a classroom teacher, it feels like, and I'm using that word intentionally, I think it feels like those educators on the front line, all the accountability is there for the teachers, the bus drivers, the paraprofessionals, the cafeteria workers, to make sure everything happens. And none of that is seen at the upper levels.
Well, thank you, Lisa. And another issue that we seem to fight every year is private school vouchers. This is essentially state-funded private school scholarships or tuition subsidies. A bill did pass last year. There's a bill eligible a different bill that's eligible to move forward this coming session, House Bill 60, which would actually create a new third voucher program in Georgia. The proponents of vouchers believe that that schools that have shut down temporarily or gone online, rather, mandated mask is the reason that students and their parents should be given state money to pay for a private school to get out of such a horrible arrangement. It's ridiculous. But we expect more legislation to increase the amount of money that the state of Georgia sends, basically to send rich people's kids to private school. So that'll be something we're geared up to fight again this year. We did have some success, but ultimately a modified version did pass And along with that, we are working with legislators on a bill that would provide some accountability for the existing voucher program. There is virtually no accountability. You know, we send our tax dollars to these private schools, and we really have no idea what happens to the children once they go there. In committee hearings, it's testified that these kids leave the public school because their medical needs or disabilities are not being addressed, and they're being sent to private schools that have no obligation to address those issues. So, you know, I think it's reasonable as taxpayers to want to know what becomes of these kids. Are they helped? Is there academic improvement? What kind of families utilize these? How are the tax dollars of the people of the state of Georgia being spent? So vouchers will be an important issue this year. Also, we expect a lot of that.
Joe, real quick.
Yeah.
One of our viewers commented in the comments, the vouchers again, and yes. I just wanted to say it's a tradition here in Georgia. It's every year now, it seems like.
We have done a pretty good job, Lisa, over the years before I came too. Yep. There are states that have universal vouchers, which are not tied to any medical condition or disability, that really anybody can take advantage of. And that's the ultimate game for the proponents of vouchers, is to bleed the public schools dry and to provide private state taxpayer dollars for private school education to every student. So it's like plugging the dike, and yeah, we're ready and geared up, and we need our members to be active when we call for action on these kind of issues, because they really do diminish the public school. They take funding away from public schools. I think they create a new racial segregation system. So there are a lot of reasons to be concerned about vouchers, but yes, they'll be back again.
So kind of like, I'm thinking about what was that movie? I was kind of young when all the horror movies were out, but the monster kept coming back to life again and again and again.
I think it's every horror movie. I'm not sure. Friday the 13th, maybe? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I just know it would not die. And that's where we are with vouchers.
So I know you got a guest coming up, Lisa. So let me just kind of mention a couple of others. We are going to be engaged in parental leave and funding for parental leave this year. You may know that a bill passed this past session, that provides up to 3 weeks paid leave for educators and ESPs. There is no money attached to that, but there are costs to school systems, for example, for substitute teachers, if you can find one right now. So that will be something we're looking at. There are going to be social issues related to race, how it's racial history and slavery, and the true history of America, the true story of American history being taught. Some people call it CRT. There's certainly going to be legislation prohibiting the teaching of CRT in the language. I think we think that certainly has a chilling effect on teachers, and appears to be a way to kind of sugarcoat the truth of American history. There will be legislation pertaining to transgendered students and bathrooms and athletics. It's a campaign year, and a lot of hard red meat issues are probably going to be introduced by some in the majority party. We've got an issue with Buckhead, with the proposal to create a city of Buckhead. If you're familiar with the Buckhead community in Atlanta, it is a part of the city of Atlanta, and there are people in Buckhead, Atlanta, that want to split off and form a separate city. We have real concerns about how that affects students, parents, and schools, teachers and ESPs in those school systems. Will they become a part of the Fulton County school system? You know, what's to happen? But there is an aggressive movement to split the Buckhead community in Atlanta out as a separate city, and that that presents some real educational issues for education as well. Lisa, an issue that I know you're familiar with also that came up during the special session was the issue of nonpartisan school board races. Mm-hmm. I know you have looked at our historical positions on those issues, but we have a situation in Gwinnett where a bill was introduced virtually with no warning or consultation that would have doubled, I believe, the number of county commissioners in Gwinnett County, and made the school board races nonpartisan. I think GAE's position has long been for nonpartisan races, but this was such a blatant attempt to whitewash the Democratic gains in Gwinnett. But that is going to be back. It was knocked down, but that'll be back in January as well.
Joe, one thing I would say there, that is something that our resolutions committee will be looking at, because our position was taken when the nonpartisan elections were held in November with the general election. So school board members would be elected in November, and then they would take their places in January and serve their communities.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which election it was, but it hasn't been that many years ago. They moved the nonpartisan elections to the primary. Mm-hmm. So that caused it. We have concerns that other members of the community may not even realize that those elections are happening. They're happening in May, and somebody's elected to the school board in May, but they don't go on the school board until January. So in essence, you then have a 7-month lame duck period for the school board.
It's ironic that in the name of nonpartisan school board races, the motive is almost entirely partisan. So
surprise.
Yeah. Couple of things I just want to mention quickly. There looks like there's going to be some book banning type legislation this year. There was last year. The Senate actually passed a new mechanism that would allow community members to have certain books banned from libraries and schools, school libraries. The House, fortunately, kind of saw it for what it was and killed it. But now the House Pro Tem Jan Jones has said she's working on legislation. It's unclear whether it will affect physical books. It probably will, but also certainly internet. And that will be something to watch for as well. We've got a couple of retirement bills I'll mention just real quickly. One that is certainly of interest to us and to the teachers' retirement system would allow a member to change their beneficiary pretty much without notice to the existing beneficiary. And that creates some underwriting costs and problems. I think there's a good intention behind the bill, and I know Buster Evans and I believe that it can be fixed with some language, but it's got practically 50 sponsors to it. So that we'll be watching. There's another bill that you might have heard us talk about or write about before, and that allows retired teachers to return to the classroom. In this case, it would be after a year of retirement. The retired teacher, if the school system wanted to hire this person, could go back full-time, full pay, with the employer paying the employer and employee parts of the TRS benefit. So they'd be drawing salary and benefits at the same time. The bill was primarily introduced, I think, as a way to address also teacher shortages. So we applaud that. The governor has embraced that bill as well. It was sent for a actuarial study over the summer, so we'll be hearing more about that soon, and that will be in John Carson's retirement committee coming up at the first of this year. Yeah.
One thing I want, previous legislation, but while we're talking about returning to work and teacher shortage and how they're trying to address that, I hope some of our members are going to be able to take advantage of the tax credit for working in areas of critical need. And I know we
That's
promised
right.
our members that when that information and those applications were available, we would get it to them. Do we have it yet? Has it been released? Where are we in that process? Or do
That's
you
a really
know?
good point. So the bill was HB 32. It actually started out as a stipend for teachers that teach in poorer and underserved districts. Over the course, it became a $3,000 refundable tax credit, which is noteworthy, and it did pass. I had discussions with the Department of Education and the person overseeing the program just before Christmas, and it had been the rulemaking associated with it had been delayed, but that should be coming out soon, and we'll make sure our members are aware of it.
All right. And before you finish the rest of yours, let me tell everybody what I'm getting ready to put in the comments, because I am getting ready to load them up with links that I want them to follow. You're hearing all about all this legislation and what's coming. We need your help. We need you to work with us to talk to our representatives. So I am putting the link in the comments for the this Saturday. We have a session from 9 a.m. till noon this Saturday. Lobby and learn. And this is the session where we will be talking about how to lobby our legislators, etc. So I've put that link there. And then next Thursday at 6:30 p.m., we are going to have a kickoff for our legislative contact team. And we will be doing some work during that session, talking about what we've learned already next week. And then we will be actually contacting some of our legislators. And then I will put the other upcoming events for this month. We do have a Rights at Night session scheduled January 25th and GAE Day at the Capitol in February. And all those links are going in the comments, so please click on them and register and participate. Okay, now I'll hush Joe and let you finish telling us about what else is coming up in this session we need to know about.
I feel like we've gone over a lot. The last thing I'll just mention is, if you've read our updates, you know that there was a Senate study committee on the age for compulsory education.
Mhm.
Currently, students in Georgia have to stay in school until the age of 16. There's a bill by Senator Lester Jackson of Savannah that would raise that to 17. We support that. The study committee recommended raising it to 17. Unfortunately, with some caveats that I don't think should be there, but there will be debate and discussion on SB 3, which is Senator Jackson's bill to raise the age to 17. Would welcome any feedback or comment anybody has on that kind of legislation. And that, I mean, there are other things, and who knows, Lisa, as you know, there are always something that comes up that that you just don't expect. So I think it's going to be kind of a weird and wacky year, but I'm counting on it being a successful year for GAE.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. And as you said, it may be weird and wacky. I want one more thing, and our guest is here. We'll bring her on. I have one more quick question. I saw something in the news just a couple of minutes ago, and that was that they have announced from the Department of Early Care and Learning that they are using some of their federal COVID relief funds to give a second $1,000 bonus to educators who are working in the Georgia pre-K program. Will that be just those who work in private settings, or will that also be for our pre-K teachers and paras who work in the public school system as well?
I talked to Decal over Christmas, and I'm not sure, I have not seen the story or read the story yet. I was told that there were $2,000 bonuses coming up. One soon, and one later in the school calendar year, and that it would apply to both private settings and public. And this is using, as you mentioned, federal COVID dollars. This is certainly within the realm of things that our teachers in the SPPs are eligible for through the public school systems that they work for, because all those public school systems got federal dollars through the American Rescue Plan and from earlier COVID relief aids that can be used for things like bonuses for educators who, taught and helped our kids out during the COVID. It also can be used for COVID leave, so that an educator would not necessarily have to use sick leave or eventually family medical leave, that they could use paid leave through COVID dollars through the school system for leave if necessary from COVID. So those dollars are out there still with many of the districts, and it's something that our local associations particularly can be fighting for, and it's a good use of the money.
Okay, and we have a question in the comments, and I don't know if either Joe or I will have the answer, but it's certainly something to think about. This person said, what about teachers being exempt from paying state taxes due to teaching from home and using our resources during the past school year? Have you heard anything about that, Joe?
No, I haven't. Well, I think you might be able to do that on your federal income taxes. I mean, I'm no accountant and I don't give accounting advice, but you may be able to claim some deductions for a home office if that's what you're using on federal income. I don't know about the state of Georgia. It's an interesting idea. And when we get down to the Capitol next week, I'll ask about it.
Yeah. I would say maybe we don't want to talk about this past year, but this past year highlights, maybe we should be able to deduct all those dollars we have been spending out of pocket for years.
Yeah.
For supplies and materials. Okay, so Emily, are you there? Yay, she's there. Okay.
Hi.
Hey, our guest this evening is Emily Robinson, and she is a member, and I asked her to be here this evening because she posted her story a few weeks ago, and I was so excited because Emily was able to get her student loans forgiven. Yes, yes. So Emily, tell us about how you were able to do that, and if someone's watching and they're a member of GAE, what they need to do to get that process started for themselves.
Hi there, and go dogs. I see you're wearing your houndstooth. I see that.
Yeah, always.
Yeah, I know. Well, we'll see what happens on Monday night, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of college, I went to the University of Georgia, and this is my 17th. I got a bachelor's and a master's degree at UGA. I had to get a loan my senior year and then for 2 years of grad school. And when I graduated, I had $40,000 in student loans. They were all government loans, so no private loans. And I remember thinking when I got my first job teaching, I was like, oh, look, I'm making $40,000 a year teaching, and I have a $40,000 a year, well, $40,000 loan to pay back. So I was like, that's okay. It's going to take the whole year's salary to pay it back. And there was
that overwhelming. Emily, that probably wasn't $40,000 take home, was it?
Oh yeah, that was the gross.
Yeah. So you weren't really making that much.
Exactly. Yeah. And then of course with loans, you have interest.
Mm-hmm.
So I had one that was interest bearing and then the other one was not, but still that's a lot of money and it adds up fast. Now I did get a good interest rate because I consolidated at the right time. And so that's part of the reason I didn't really look into a lot of other options, because I think my interest rate was like 2%.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, this is great. You know, I don't want to look into any other kind of consolidations or anything like that. And so I think the public service loan forgiveness program, I think got started right around 2008 or something. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was sometime, I think in between Bush and Obama when it started up. And it didn't really go anywhere for a long time, as you all know, I'm sure. It didn't really get going, I think, until sometime during the Trump presidency, when I think there was pressure on them to really look at this program again, because so many people were being rejected. I mean, I think 99% of people were rejected, even though they had 10 years of public service. And then I had tried already to get into the program a couple of times over the years, and I was always getting rejected. And they were never really specific about why I was getting rejected. They were just like, well, at this time, you don't qualify, because you're on this, you need to be on another payment plan or something, or, something, but then wouldn't really offer any resources. And it is true, when I would call my loan company, I would get different answers from whoever answered. They would say, one person would say one thing, and then another person would say something else, and somebody else would say something else. And that was a real problem, because we weren't getting consistent information on how to proceed. And one time I think that I got disqualified because I failed to put a 0 in front of the 8 when I was trying to fill in my August 2005, when I first started teaching on the application. I think instead of putting 08, I just put 8. And these programs, they'll disqualify you if you have one tiny little thing out of place. And I was really feeling very depressed and upset about the whole thing, because it felt like, oh, this is a great program, but nobody's going to qualify for it. So it was very frustrating, especially when you talk to these other people who are like, well, my company is paying for me to get an MBA. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, great, good for you. And you know what's more important than that? Teachers and teaching and getting degrees to be teachers, because without that, then you couldn't go off and get your MBA. And so I just always felt that I was seen as being inferior to things to other professions. And it was very frustrating. And in the meantime, I kept trying, but I did get hooked up with Savvy. So the company Savvy that NEA has partnered with. Mm-hmm. So I don't know exactly when I found out about them, but at the time, this was maybe, what is this year? I have no idea. I think this was 2 or 3 years ago. I think at the time it was $30 a year to join Savvy, and they were going to help with all the loan business. But it was totally worth it, $30. I was like, let me just throw some money at this problem. This is a little bit of money, and they're going to help me get everything in order. Because like I said, I had been applying myself, and I was getting rejected all the time. And I have a master's degree, and I couldn't understand, what exactly it was I needed to do. I also didn't even know what kind of loan I had. I thought I had the direct loan, but it turns out I had an FFEL loan. And I said, I don't even know what that is. Right. I thought I had a direct loan. And then I wasn't on the right repayment plan either. I don't even know which one I was on anymore, but I had to be on one of those income-based repayment plans. And I wasn't on that. I don't remember what I was on. And so I paid the $30, and I got Savvy to help me. And I put I'll put it in the chat. I don't know if that's on Facebook or that's on Zoom, but that's the link.
I'll put it there. And the other thing, we have put in the comments the link to the NEA Member Benefits, because NEA Member Benefits does, if you go to the NEA Member Benefits, the Savvy is free. It's one of our NEA Member Benefits now.
Yeah, and it's free now. I think the first year was $30, but honestly, that felt like free, because I mean, that's nothing, especially considering how much they helped me. And now it is free for members, but I think it's $60 if you're not a member. But I still think that's a good deal to help you get everything that you need in order, because you have to have all your ducks in order. And I believe that this temporary thing that they're doing, I think it's supposed to expire in next October, but I don't really know what's going on with that. So I would say time is of the essence. If you're somebody who has 10 years or more, you need to make sure that, I would say you need to get with Savvy, get everything in order, and so you can be all ready for when your time comes. Because I think that's why mine was forgiven so quickly. It was forgiven in November.
Mhm.
And I thought it was going to happen, but I didn't think it would ever happen that fast. And I think it was because I had everything that I needed. And mine was very easy for them to say like, oh yeah, actually you look like, upon review, it looks like you do qualify. And I was many years past qualifying, as you know. And I did not get a refund for overpaying for all those years. But whatever, just
Yeah.
that's fine. So I ultimately got half of my loan forgiven, so about $21,000. And that was, I found out right before Thanksgiving. It was a Thanksgiving miracle.
Okay, I'm going to do some quick math here just a second. So you had been paying for over 10 years
Yes.
and still owed over half.
Oh yeah. And it was pretty much like, right. I think I calculated it where when I retired, that's when the loan would be paid. It was so sad,
Yeah.
It was so
yeah.
sad because like as soon as I began, it was like 40,000. Oh, that's my salary. And then at the very end, when I retire, oh, now it's finally paid off. So it was like bookended, like my career is bookended with these loans. Like I felt that I was never ever going to pay them off. It just felt like an obstacle I would never be able to cross.
Yeah, that's okay. So we did put the links in the comments. I want all of you who are watching who still have student loans, and I know that is most of our educators, to use this NEA member benefit and get the program for free so it will help you. One other thing I'm going to put in the chat as well. This won't help you with your loans, but it will help you if you are currently in a program for an advanced degree, or if you are an ESP who is working on a degree, or if you're a classroom teacher, Emily, you might be interested in this one, who has an idea for a great project in your classroom that you need funding for. The GAE Foundation grants and scholarships, those applications are due February 1st. And I did put the link in the chat. So please look in the comments, click on that link and see if one of those grants you are eligible for. Because that is another one of those member benefits that so many of us don't think about using all the time. And we had someone else comment that they also received their loan forgiveness in the fall. So
Oh, yay.
Yay.
Yeah.
It does work.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
You just really have to be persistent and not give up. And I really think the key for me was getting involved with getting savvy involved, because like I said, I really was feeling lost. And I'm usually pretty organized and on top of it. So I didn't like the way it felt when I was rejected every time, because I was like, I know how am I not filling this out correctly? How am I still not doing this correctly? I was getting very frustrated. And so they were very nice, and they were, very patient, and, they would explain, because there's so many different income-based repayment plans, and there's like 20 different ones. And I was like, I don't know what the difference is, and why does it matter? And like, why do I have to have this loan? I mean, I have this other loan that's also government, so why does that matter? And they explained all that to me, and it made more sense. Now, I did have to do a little bit of work on my own. Like I had to find the email addresses of the HR people who could verify my employment. I also needed to sign some documents, but they looked through everything, make sure that all the zeros were in there where they were supposed to be.
In the right place.
Yes, and then they would turn all of it in for me and keep me updated on things.
Okay, so I'm excited for you, and I really hope that some of our other members will take advantage of this. And I know that's not the number I'm reading. Yes, it is. Our member who posted said he had $79,000 forgiven.
Oh my God. You have that forgiven?
Yes.
Oh, that's so awesome.
That's
what
just
relief.
like, oh my goodness. Okay. So no matter how much it is, no matter how long if you've been teaching, and I would say if you haven't been teaching 10 years, but you have the loans, go ahead and get them and get yourself in the program, because we know you're going to be teaching for 10 years. So I'm excited for that. Joe, I think that's one of the benefits of membership.
That's exciting. That really is exciting news. Thank you, Emily, for bringing it to everyone's attention.
Oh, absolutely. I hope that, somebody out there will hear my story and then know what to do and how to take control of the situation, because you can feel very like beaten down, especially with those, those people who are like, well, my company's paying for my MBA, and all. And that kind of stuff is not helpful to hear that. So when you feel like you can have some control over your situation and you feel that you are going to be able to have, like, you'll be able to get taken care of as well. It really can free your mind up to think about other things and to start putting that money in your savings account too.
Yeah.
So one of the questions I had just listening to you was, I'm guessing that the College of Education at UGA is not producing as many teachers as it has in the past, or they're choosing a different career path. One of the other exciting things going on at GAE is re-kickstarting our aspiring educators program. So we have a terrific young man, Skylar Nunnally, who's really just started, but is already doing great work with college campuses across the state in trying to attract members to our aspiring educators program, and hopefully they can reap the benefit of the kind of things that you're talking about here today. Yeah,
because something like this needs to work, and it needs to be advertised if they really want to attract more public servants. I mean, because they had this, but I felt like they never really publicized it very well. And then we know it didn't work until a few months ago. And it needs to be something that people are hearing. Otherwise, yeah, you're right. We're going to have fewer and fewer public servants out there. And I actually did have even more loans than that, but one was like the Perkins loan that was canceled after 5 years. Another one was directly from UGA, and another one was like the Hope Teacher Scholarship, which was also service cancelable. So when I graduated, I actually needed to pay back $40,000, but I think I originally owed maybe $55,000. That $15,000 was eventually forgiven, like over the years, or something like that. So it's really another thing is, why are they letting 22-year-old people borrow $55,000? That's a story for another day, though.
Yeah. Your frustration, I've heard from other educators. I've heard that, I've heard colleagues say they applied, and, I've even heard them say it feels like they don't really want to forgive the loans. They just want to make you think they're going to.
Oh, yeah.
And because I've heard colleagues, who have applied, and like you said, everything wasn't exactly the exact perfect way it was supposed to be, so they get denied. And so we really want them to see now that the program is working, but you need to have the right people to help you to make sure you can get through it.
Yes, absolutely. That's number one thing I would recommend.
Okay. Emily, what district do you teach in?
I'm in DeKalb County.
Okay, great. Thank you for choosing education as a career.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
And so
hopefully we're getting you a pay raise this year.
I hope so.
Emily, another thing you did, I seem to remember, didn't you participate in the NEA Fellows program?
Yes, I was a global learning fellow in 2018. I guess I still am. I still consider myself a fellow. I'm still involved with them. I'm actually a mentor right now for the current group of fellows. And so I have a small group of fellows. I think I have 4 people who are in my group. So they're my proteges and I'm their mentor. And so we meet, I think, every other month to go over their capstone project and to check in and see how they're progressing. That program was definitely life-changing, and everybody should apply to be in that program. And you never know. I mean, I was the person they chose from Georgia, and so I was very lucky. But you'll meet other educators from all over the country. Like we had people, one from Hawaii, one from Alaska. Like I can say I have a friend in Alaska now. I mean, I would have met, we're going to meet somebody from Alaska. So he was a global learning fellow. I mean, it's just really a neat program, and you get to study global education and then have a field experience. Mine was in South Africa, but they go to China, Peru, Brazil, I think, and then they're supposed to go back this summer, late summer, to South Africa, and we're crossing our fingers that it happens.
You may have said this earlier. What subject matter do you teach?
Oh, English, ESOL, and yearbook.
Okay.
So I'm kind of all over the place.
That's cool.
So I don't have it at my fingertips, but we will get the link for the NEA Global Learning Fellows in the comments, because we do want our members to take advantage of those things. And as Emily says, everyone that I've talked to that has participated in that program has talked about how wonderful it is and how life-changing and career-changing.
Yeah, and many of us are still friends. Like we still we'll have we call them like socials. We'll have like a social every few months, and then we'll collaborate on things. And we're even planning a reunion. This is not even through the fellowship. This is just us who are trying to plan a reunion, just because we grew very close through the fellowship, even though we're all over the country.
Right.
That's great. Lisa, I had one other thing I wanted to mention, if that's okay.
Yeah, it is. Can I plug one more thing and then we'll leave it to you?
Of course you can.
Because this is something that I have made a promise that I'm going to plug every time I'm speaking somewhere, and I think y'all will agree with me. GAE has an award for our members who are the Education Support Professional of the Year, and we have not had anyone nominated for that award for a couple of years, and I want to make sure that one of our great ESPs is nominated this year. So I am going to put the link to the nomination in the comments. Your local association can nominate someone, or if you have 20 colleagues in your building who are members, you can nominate someone. So we want somebody to nominate an ESP of the year. So we will have someone this year that we can honor. We know that all our ESPs should be honored for the great work that they do each day, but we want to be able to honor one of our members and then nominate them for the national award. So I put it in.
And what is an ESP exactly? I know bus drivers, custodians, but like who else is in that category?
Oh, thank you for catching me, Emily. Anyone who is not certified. So bus drivers, cafeteria workers, paraprofessionals, media clerks, secretaries.
I knew she couldn't wait the whole time.
Secretaries, maintenance, basically everybody that's not a certified teacher or an administrator. Okay, Joe.
Yeah, I just want to mention, because we've written about it a couple of times, but there is another state school board meeting coming up. But the last one in December, they did finally adopt the personal finance rule that I know some of our members have been following pretty closely. You might have a few words you want to say about that, and also a new school counseling rule as well. So those will be in our next legislative update, which will be out this week also.
Okay. Yeah, the personal finance basically changed the ESP changed the economics class to include more personal finance and an emphasis on personal finance. And the school counseling, to my understanding from talking with our members who were counselors, was an update to make the state rule reflect what our counselors are actually doing. I think the description of the counselors, one of the high school counselors told me, that describes what I did 20 years ago, when my role was to help kids get their schedule and help them with college applications, and that was pretty much it. And that's not the role of our counselors today.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
Yep.
Beautiful dog, by the way, Emily.
Yes. And
Thank you. This is Holly, my corgi. I knew she was going to have to bark at some point. She is kind of barky. So,
but content now.
yeah. Well, she always kind of clams up when I put her in front of Zoom. So that's probably for the best.
Okay. So I've hit all the things that I had on my list to mention, but I will go back kind of quickly through them so everybody can know. Lobby and Learn is this Saturday, and we want everybody to join us Saturday. We'll be talking about the session and how to lobby and how things work at the Capitol. Next Thursday, we'll have our legislative contact team kickoff, and we'll actually be doing the lobbying then. And we have Rights at Night coming up January 25th, talking about employee rights. And then February 24th, 25th is our GAE Day at the Capitol. And I will tell you that we are planning now for Day at the Capitol to be in person. But again, that's a fingers crossed. We don't know what COVID is going to do between now and then. It's pretty bad right now. I know if it were next week, we would be saying, no, we probably don't need to be doing Day at the Capitol in person, but hopefully by February, we will be in a much better place.
Emily, y'all are virtual only right now?
Yes, today, tomorrow, and Friday. And we don't know yet about next week.
Yeah. I think
Well, that leaves us enough time to say go dogs.
That's right. Yes, go dogs all the way.
you know I'm going to say roll tide. Yes, thank you for everyone who has joined us this week, and we will be back in 2 weeks. And at that point, we will be into the second week of the session, and hopefully we'll have some more information for our members and how you can make an impact during this session for public education. And thank you all, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Bye-bye.